Welcome to today's talk session. My name is Deirdre Moss, and I am the host of Can We Talk? I'm an educator, motivator, and a talk connoisseur. Today, we continue our series on Can We Talk Politics? And I want to remind our audience, our viewers, that Can We Talk is an all-inclusive platform. We welcome guests locally, regionally, and internationally. We have viewers from different parts of the world, and it is our hope to have meaningful talk about topics that affect us all. It is with that in mind that we begin our session. Today we have a regional talk session, and my guest today is Nikoli Jean-Paul Edwards from the Progressive Party of Trinidad and Tobago, and he's here to talk politics with me today. At this time, I will pass the virtual mic to him to have him introduce himself. Mr. Edwards.
Thank you so much for the introduction and the opportunity to have a discussion with you on politics. As you mentioned, my name is Nikoli Edwards, and I am the political leader of the Progressive Party here in Trinidad and Tobago. It's one of the younger political parties here, having only been launched in 2019, and it was as a result of my desire to just see better in Trinidad and Tobago. I felt as though the options that were available to us just wasn't cutting it for me and for many others, and so I decided to launch a political party. This comes against the background of me having served as an independent senator in our country's parliament. I have also served as a youth ambassador and youth advocate for many years, going all the way up to the Commonwealth Youth Council, representing 1.2 billion young people, and also copying the National Youth Award in Trinidad and Tobago for youth activism back in 2018. So I'm just passionate about life and young people, and again, it's my honor and privilege to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikoli. And you definitely have a strong political background as a young person. I would even venture to say a millennial, right?
Yes, definitely.
Right. So before we start, I also want to thank my colleague from Trinidad and Tobago, Miss Nikki Williams. This would not be possible without her in the background as well. So I want to publicly thank her for her support. And so we'll get into our discussion. I know that you briefly discussed your background, right? You kind of briefly provided us with an overview. But can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and why did you decide to enter politics? Why did you choose the political party that you're attached to?
Sure. Well, I think that I have had a basic childhood, just as many other persons. But one thing I was always encouraged by people to aim high. So I've always had that kind of a support system and that strong backing. It would have ranged from my time in secondary school straight up to university. While at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, where I studied a BA in Communication Studies with a minor in Theatre Arts, then a postgrad diploma and a master's in Mediation Studies, and now I'm pursuing law, so an LLB. Throughout my experience at UWI, I had always pushed myself to get more out of the experience. I just didn't want to be one of those average run-of-the-mill students who come to campus, goes to classes, and just heads home. So I found a way to get more immersed in the university experience, and that was through the Guild of Students. So my first real taste of politics had to do with me running for a position on the Guild of Students. And that first position was within the 2014-2015 academic year. And I ran for Faculty of Humanities and Education representative on the Guild. From there, I also served as Public Relations Officer, holding two titles because the PRO had resigned and they gave me that other title. I then ran for Secretary of the Guild, and I served in the position of PRO once again thereafter. And so that gave me a taste and an understanding of how to represent, because, you know, when it comes to the Guild of Students, people always say that that's the breeding ground for politicians and the bad ones. They say that the worst about those student government leaders. But I made sure to do things the right way, of course, always being above board. And from there, I ran for the position of Vice Chairperson, Policy, Advocacy and Projects of the Commonwealth Youth Council, and I was successful. And I'll tell you this, a fun fact, the inspiration to run for the CYC came while I was in the Bahamas. I was attending the 19th CCEM here, so the Commonwealth Education Ministers meeting, and that was back in 2015. That took place at Atlantis, actually, and I was staying there, and because I was getting so involved in the meeting, the youth aspect of it, many people just said, Nikolai, you need to run, you need to represent on this level. And so I decided to run with it. That gave me some national and regional and international recognition, so much so that the president of Trinidad and Tobago one day saw me at a function, and he came up to me and told me he felt as though I was doing a good job, and we started a relationship there. And one day he called me and he was asking me prior to that how old I was, and I said 25 at that time. And he said he was glad because now I was eligible to be a senator. And one morning he called me and he said to me that an opportunity had arisen in our country's Senate, and he would have loved for me to serve as an independent senator, temporary, because our legislation allows that when a senator is either out of the country or ill, you can have a temporary replacement. So back in 2017, I entered our country's parliament and served multiple times in that position. And it just landed me to where I am today, where I want to give back more. I want to do more. I don't believe in the two political parties, the main political parties in our country, and the other smaller parties just weren't appealing enough to me. So I said, I'm going to do something out of the box, which is create a political party. And so I did that. And I ran last year in the election for the San Fernando West seat against our country's Attorney General. I was not successful, but it really put me on a path or a trajectory. So I am here today, still political leader of the Progressive Party. We are looking forward to the 2025 general election, but in the interim, it's about doing that groundwork, continuing to build ourselves and our membership. And it's quite difficult with a state of emergency and a global pandemic, but we're just doing what we can do with the resources we do have.
Wow, you said a mouthful. So powerful. I don't know where to go with that. But I just want to say what you mentioned about the guild. That is a big deal because I agree with you. That is like a training ground. The student guild and those, what I want to say, the student unions, those are training grounds. So I want to thank you for sharing that you would have gotten your feet kind of wet in that area. And also, you said you attended. What's the name of the
meeting in the Bahamas?
Session that, yes.
Yeah, the 19 CCEM. So it would have been the Commonwealth Education Ministers meeting, something to that effect, but that would have been in 2015.
Awesome. Great stuff. Thank you for sharing. So you definitely have a strong background in politics, but it started student guild.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's talk about the Progressive Party. You mentioned the Progressive Party. It's a new party. And you shared what it is, basically what it is, but why was it formed in your country? What is the founding principles?
Sure. So progressivism is really the ideological underpinning of the party. Now, in the Caribbean, unfortunately, in some respects, people may see it as a fortunate thing, and in other respects, an unfortunate thing. We don't have ideological principles underpinning our political parties. So you see parties, and it's very hard to distinguish what are their principles. So in Trinidad and Tobago, unfortunately, the two major parties, the People's National Movement and the United National Congress, or PNM and UNC, the main distinction that the population sees is race. So PNM being more of an Afro-Trinidadian party, and then the UNC being more Indo-Trinidadian. And so there is nothing more that distinguishes both of them, and that's the unfortunate thing. So I wanted to bring some ideological principles with the Progressive Party. So progressivism really looks at using social policy to bring about change, all right? So when we think about the policies that drive the country, the economy, the society, that's what we prefer to focus on. So it's not about race or class or any of those things, but rather, do you believe that progress can occur through these mechanisms? And so the party was formed with that sense of, this is who we are, this is what we believe in, and many persons have ascribed to it. Of course, there will be those who don't believe in all of our principles, but that's fine. The distinguishing factor is that we have laid out to the country, these are the things that we believe in. So whether it's taking a position on controversial issues such as LGBTQIA issues or legalization of marijuana or even sex work, all of these things which are controversial issues, we have no problem stating our position very clearly on those things. And I think that is what will distinguish us. And I think that millennials, young people, these are the things that they want to hear. So we are appealing to them, but at the same time, we understand that there are many people of different age groups, of different backgrounds, who can also relate to what we are espousing.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. I love that. And I just wanted to kind of share a commonality with you as it pertains to, sometimes we find, even in the Bahamas, you find that sometimes the parties can be divided along racial lines, and you would have talked about that. That's very interesting when you pointed that out. That here it is, your two parties that are divided among racial lines. I want to thank you for mentioning that, and also the word progressive is so important to me. I mean, that word means a lot to me. That word in and of itself is very powerful. And like you said, progressive means taking the steps to move forward and to make change. I love that word progressive. And I love the fact that you said that your party has no issue, no qualms with standing behind, stating what your stance is on an issue, because sometimes you have parties that want to they want to appeal to everyone, so they don't want to take a stance on certain issues, especially the controversial ones. So I want to thank you for mentioning that your party really has no qualms on really standing behind or taking a stance on whatever issue it is. So I want to thank you for sharing that. And so I want to get into the next question. As you survey the political environment, what is your analysis of the political environment in Trinidad and Tobago? I know you talked about the racial division in the party, but is there anything else you can observe or you've analyzed?
Sorry, could you repeat that last part?
Oh, no problem. I know you would have talked about the what you would have observed in the political environment as it pertains to two major parties who are divided among racial lines. You have one party that has a strong Afrocentric um, line, and then you have another party that has a more, I think you said, Indian centric. So, are there any other analysis that you would have of the political environment in your country?
But the entire political environment is shrouded in a whole experience of political parties that don't necessarily understand the main issues surrounding people in Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, the UNC may appeal to, in some respects, a more grassroots approach, whereas the PNM, people we may see it as more elitist, even though its membership is not largely, or either of them, they're largely not populated by the elites or the one percenters or those individuals. And so we need a party that is representative of all, that looks like all, that isn't just involved in tokenism. So you're seeing people on the platform just because they look a particular way and it may appeal to a particular grouping, but understanding that everyone matters, every voice matters, no matter your geographical space, you matter. We should not have a political party that is just so lawyers in terms of professionals. You should have, yes, doctors, lawyers, teachers, but also housewives. You should have people who are really and truly coming from different experiences, because those things add to a holistic party and holistic representation. And when you even look at the Caribbean, many people feel as though that's not the kind of representation that they get. Now, we have to come to a simple fact, which is we will never ever have a perfect political party. All right, and that's why you would have parties competing against one another. We have a government and an opposition, because if there were a perfect party, it would be a singular party, and everyone will just vote for that, or everyone will just, it will be like a monarchy, more or less. But that's just not the system that we have here in the Caribbean. So I think that at Trinidad and Tobago, we also have issues in terms of the age divide. So many of the persons who sit at the head of these parties are much older. I mean, our prime minister is 71, going on 72 or thereabout. And one of my concerns is if you have to retire from the public service at around 65, why is someone heading our country at the age of 71? That should be a retired individual who is at home enjoying his retirement. Why are we not creating spaces and places for younger generations to come up and assume the mantle of governance in Trinidad and Tobago and throughout the Caribbean? I mean, Rav Gonzalez, I know that many people love him in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but the fact is that he has served more than 5 terms as Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and people are saying that the heir apparent may be his son. Those are issues that we have to resolve. It cannot be about favoritism, it cannot be about nepotism. It has to be a meritocracy, so to say. People have to earn their space and their place, and the only way that we are going to allow that to happen is by allowing them to be heard, to be seen, to be a part of the process of nation building.
Thank you. Those are excellent points. And while you were talking, there's um, so many points, so many areas that I can relate to, even within my country. You talk about age. That's a big deal because here it is. I mean, we have a diverse population. We have young persons. We have older persons. Sorry, we have a diverse population, but for the most part, those seated in the political system they're older, and so who is there to represent the younger persons, even in the context of I want to say along gender lines. We just have, no offense, a bunch of males. Who is there to represent the women?
Yeah.
So these are issues that I see that are reflective in not just in your country but in my country as well, where you even talked about a party that appeals to the grassroots and the party that appealed to the elitists. That is
Mhm.
also an issue that I see in my country. So I want to thank you for sharing, and it kind of reminds me that these issues are prevalent within our region. And so that takes me to my next question. Do you think that the political systems in the Caribbean are similar, and how would you define them?
Yeah. So what we have to understand in terms of our region's history is that there was an independence wave that went along that really rocked the Caribbean at one point. So many of the leaders would have been familiar with one another, may have attended the same universities and those different things. And so they really espouse a lot of the same ideas moving forward. But our systems have not developed much in the 50 something, 60 years of independence that some countries have experienced. We do have, well, at least in Trinidad and Tobago, we have the Westminster system of governance, and these are systems that we've inherited from the English. And because we've inherited them from the English, we felt as though that was the way to go moving forward. But times have changed, and much of the laws on our books across the Caribbean are outdated. They are not even practiced in the United Kingdom. You find some laws that are offensive to various communities, to various groups. And why have we not done anything to change that? And one of the reasons for that is because of something called a savings clause, which says that despite our independence and so forth, those are things that we have to keep on our books.
Could you repeat that clause? What's the name?
Sure, the savings clause, right? So savings clause means that despite us developing our systems, there was a period in time from that point onward, whatever laws were on the books, those are carried over. All right. And so that's why we have a lot of these outdated pieces of legislation. And many times governments find it very difficult to do anything to remove them. So unless we go to the Privy Council, unless there is a matter that is taken all the way to the Privy Council and decided upon, and the Privy Council says that this law can be struck down, that is going to have an actual ripple effect across the entire Caribbean, because it will be used as a case that says savings clauses can be dealt with insofar as it would be null and void. So we will now have the freedom and the flexibility to make new legislation and to affect that legislation of the past. So things like that are part of our history. We do have to recognize that they play a very integral role in our systems, and we have to make every effort to change those things moving forward. And I think that political parties have a huge responsibility in providing this information to citizens across the region, and it will be an abysmal failure if they govern without providing this information and really seeking to change constitutions. All right, and that's one of the things that our party is very focused on. We need constitutional change in Trinidad and Tobago. We need to see constitutional change across the region.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's very important. And I just want to say that we also observe the Westminster model as well. So there are some commonalities with you as well. And that takes me to our next question. Advice. What would you give to young individuals seeking political office?
Yeah. But the first thing is definitely understand what you're grounded in. I will tell any young person to start with that you have to have a cause. There has to be something that really makes you want to get up in the morning and go out and do justice, so to say. Because it started off with me having a cause, and that cause was youth advocacy, or bringing attention to the issues facing young people. And because of that, we are able to now, I am able to now say that when I fight for something, I'm always thinking with a youth lens, because how is this going to affect young people? How is this going to advance a young person's agenda? So when we think about a cause that we can really agree with or identify with, it's the first step, because you start to become confident in your ability to go out and speak about it. You become confident in your ability to share information because you're well researched in that area. But if you just want to jump into politics because politics seems glamorous and it seems as though you're going to have access to a lot of money, then you're in it for the wrong reason. And I would advise you to probably go join the private sector and build your wealth there. But politics should never be about self-aggrandizement. It should never be about how can I benefit myself. So there are political parties, there are different routes that people can, a young person can consider. I considered one route, one of the harder routes, as a matter of fact, which is starting my own political party. Some of the easier routes would be joining an existing political party. And when you do that, you have the opportunity in some cases to make change from inside. It may be extremely difficult in other cases, but it is an opportunity to make change from inside. You have to push hard. And people will see you as threats to the structure of the party, to the history of the party, the legacy of the party. So those are things that you have to fight through. But for the most part, going into a political party, it provides an opportunity to do that change from inside. You're going to be up against those older heads who feel as though they need to be there until they die, and that's just a reality you have to
Oh,
face.
that's powerful. That is powerful. Um, I you talked about people seeing you as a threat. That's powerful. I really wish you could elaborate on that a little bit more, but that's so powerful.
So one of the things that we have to pay close attention to is that a young person in 2021 is far different from a young person in 2011 or 2001 or 1991. Because of the access to information that we have right now, we are far more advanced than our foreparents. And that is something that we fail to recognize. And our older heads continue to operate with that older mindset that a child's place is so and so, and children are to be seen and not heard, and all of that. And even considering what they think about as a child. I mean, clearly you're in your 20s or your early 30s, you are not a child, you're an adult. Probably back in your time, you may have been seen as not able to hold your own and so forth, but we live in an age of information. You had Mark Zuckerberg at a very early age creating Facebook, and look at that, look where it is right now. So why can't we here in the Caribbean recognize our power and our potential? We continue to stifle that power and that potential, unfortunately, and that's why the region isn't growing. When we think about institutions such as the University of the West Indies, it brings people together because you have individuals from all backgrounds. I mean, had it not been for my UA experience, I would not have friends in Bahamas and Barbados and Jamaica and all of these places. So I now have a regional perspective, and that is the regional perspective that can push the region forward. Because when I think about development, I don't think about it on a national level alone, but on a regional level. So we
Said,
have
but you
to
talking
see
some powerful stuff. I can't even control myself. Go ahead.
yeah, we have to see young people as opportunities waiting to be harnessed rather than threats and issues to be fixed. And until and unless we start to have a mind shift, a different vista, we continue to suppress our young people, and it will be to the detriment of the region. Because I want to say this, our leaders, they are not going to outlive us. Despite you see a high mortality rate or what have you in certain respects, the fact is that the country that our leaders are preparing is supposed to be for us. Because
Exactly.
5 years,
Yes.
10 years, 15 years, they may not be around to enjoy it. So you have to inject a youth voice from now, because that youth is going to be probably in their 30s or their 40s or their 50s or 60s, whether it's 20, 30, 40 years from now. So they will enjoy a longer time here. So if they are not a
Exactly.
part of that conversation, what kind of society are we creating? Who are we creating that society for?
Before. Exactly. Oh my goodness. You said so many powerful things. And that's the purpose of succession planning, right?
Correct, correct.
So
Something
why
that
aren't
I
we
don't
taking young
understand.
persons under our wings and kind of grooming them for these positions? Or why are we sitting in the seat and not preparing the next generation behind us? Are we so comfortable in the seat that we think we're going to be there forever?
I think that it even goes back to our colonial past. When we think about slavery, when we
Yes,
think
yes,
about that oppressive time where there
yes.
was that one individual at the head who was the head of the plantation, anyone who was learning to read, learning to write, learning to speak in, just as the white man or whatever it is, they were seen as threats and they had to know their place. And I think that we have adopted that kind of colonial thinking where now, once you're the head of an organization, anyone below you must remain subservient in your mind. And we need to change that kind of
Ooh, that's
thinking.
powerful. Ooh, okay.
Yeah,
So,
because we have to breed a new generation of CEOs. We have to breed a new generation of politicians. We have to breed a new generation of thinkers, and we have to do that by creating the ecosystem for those individuals to thrive. And I think that in the Caribbean, we have not been able to create that ecosystem because we feel as though someone is coming for my place, someone is coming for my position.
yes.
But we have to recognize that you are only here for a period in time, and you can determine your shelf life, not just simply by creating laws or what have you to insulate you, to keep you there, but how people respond to you. People, we have to recognize as well that in the Caribbean, we're different from places like Africa and so forth. You see in Africa leaders holding on for 20 years and 30 years and 40 years. And in some respects, I think that our leaders in the Caribbean feel as though they can do that as well. But our region is better educated, higher literacy rates, all of these things. So that's why you're going to see young people challenging the system. That's why you're going to see our legal system as being as developed as it is to challenge leaders when they are taking autocratic and dictatorial positions. So the message has to be older heads, leaders, watch out. Because this generation is a generation that will not sit idly by, but is coming for your position only because you have made it clear that you're not willing to give it up. Had it been a situation where you were involved in succession planning, we could have worked with you. You would have been our elders who are advising us and guiding us and supporting us, and we would have been the ones making the decisions. But now it seems as though they prefer a situation where we come and we fight, a coup taking place almost, and then they are not part of the conversation thereafter. And that's not a progressive way of dealing with things. But unfortunately, if this is the fight that our leaders want, it's the fight that they're going to get.
Absolutely, Mr. Edwards. And what I'm hearing you say is that, let me just say, I want to say millennials, that group. And it's not as, what I'm hearing you say is, it's not that you're not willing to stand under the shoulders of the older generation to glean and to learn of them. But sometimes it is a situation where you're not even given the opportunity to. Especially if they find that you have the qualifications and you're able to make a change, or like I said, you would have had the qualifications. You're sometimes seen as a threat, and when you're seen as a threat, you're sometimes I don't even want to use that terminology, but when you're seen as a threat, you're sometimes cast aside, and that's a sad thing. That's a sad thing in the culture that we're breeding. And I just want to say, I'll let you jump back in, but I just want to say, I have that experience, and I find that I've qualified myself, but I'm in an organization where I'm qualified, but yet I'm not being given an opportunity because I'm seen as a threat. And at the end of the day, wouldn't you want someone who is committed to the job? Wouldn't you want someone who is willing to throw themselves into the work? But because you see that person as a threat, you're not going to give them the opportunity. And I find that is a huge issue in our culture. And before you have the older generation to say, come, let me take you under my wing and let me show you what I've learned. Let me help build your experience. They cast you aside. And so I find that sometimes that is a situation within our culture. But I also want to touch on what you would have said in terms of the UWI system. You were able to build relationships, and I'm grateful for the relationships that I've built, because I understand that this is not a local thing. This is not just me and my bubble, me and my country. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have regional issues. You have to build your network within, not just regionally, but internationally. We are more than just our country. The world is so much bigger. So I want to thank you for sharing that. And UWI allowed me to connect with persons outside of my country, persons outside of my region. So I want to thank you for sharing that. And I'll let you jump back in.
Yeah, one of the things that I have recognized, and as we were talking about EUE, one of the things that I've recognized is that governments have taken a position over the past couple of years to educate its population. So you see more young people, more individuals, more citizens going to university, attaining a university degree. And it is supposed to help the region move forward because you have more professionals, more thinkers, more people who can innovate. But beyond attaining an education, it doesn't seem as though the government has invested in the ecosystem for that education to be put to practice because,
Oh my goodness, that's so powerful. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it comes like, all right, so you have now trained more scientists or individuals in the field of science. Why are we not seeing investments in labs across the country? Why are we not seeing investments in research and development? Why are we not seeing more positions opened up in ministries that allow for data statisticians and all of these individuals, because they will help the country to move forward. You look at the more developed countries and you see that they have the director of this and the director of that, and they really based on science and that kind of information. But in Trinidad and Tobago, across the region, we are not seeing our best and our brightest being given the opportunity to further grow and develop. We can talk about even doctors in Trinidad and Tobago. We send so many people to go and study to become doctors. But the problem we have right now is that there are a glut of junior doctors because many of these individuals can't afford to specialize. So if we're giving them support at the junior level, why can't we extend that support at the senior level for them to further educate themselves? Because we now have to import doctors from Cuba and Nigeria and all of these places to come and help our public health system to be propped up. So I don't think that many times our governments think it fully through. It's a quick decision. It's a decision that they think is politically expedient, that would find favor with the population. But beyond that, what are we doing? Why are we not seeing more young people employed? And it's not the government's role to give jobs to everyone, but to create the ecosystem and the environment so that everyone can find a place and a space that even if they can't find an existing place or space, that they have the tools to create a space and a place. And that's entrepreneurship, that's innovation, because the fact is, many of the jobs that are going to be booming in the next 5 years and 10 years have not yet been thought of. And they may not even be thought of at that juncture because we're not supporting innovation and research and development. So our experience has been where, as a political party, those are areas we want to develop. It will augur well for us regionally. And even speaking regionally, I don't think we properly understand the power of the Caribbean and what we have to offer to the world. Look at some of the issues. Trinidad and Tobago and many other countries across the Caribbean, it's extremely expensive to travel to these countries. If we want to talk regionalism, then we need to ensure that regional travel is as competitive as travel to the United States or travel to Europe, because you can catch a flight from Trinidad and Tobago to Miami that is cheaper than probably flying to some of our regional neighbors. And that's depressing. We have to remove, in many cases, the airport taxes, because when you remove that, the tickets to come into these countries are cheaper. So I would love to pay 50 US or 100 US for a round trip to the Bahamas, where I can leave Trinidad on a Friday afternoon, go to the Bahamas, hang out, party over the weekend, whatever, attend conferences, and come back to Trinidad and Tobago on Sunday evening. And again, 100 US round trip, because you see people flying across Europe and so forth. And one may argue, well, there is the demand for that, and because of the large populations, we have to create the demand. We have to create the demand by supplying what people need, and that's the ability to travel freely. So CSME, CARICOM, all of these institutions sound good, but are they working for us? And the question really is no, and that's unfortunate.
Those are excellent points, Mr. Edwards, and so powerful. And you made so many powerful statements, and these are issues that we need to think about. These are issues that we need to consider. You have so many Caribbean nations that are part of these organizations, and are they working for us? Are they really working for us in bringing the region together? So I want to thank you for sharing that, and also offering advice to young persons who may be seeking political office, as I would think that it's not easy. As you would have mentioned, you're coming up against older, seasoned politicians who may feel some may be accepting of you, whereas some may consider you a threat. So it may not be easy. There may be challenges that you may have to, challenges that you may encounter. And then you also talk about entering the system, entering political office, and um, it's a service. So it's not for self-preservation, but it's a service that you have to offer to the people. And in interviewing another young person who is presenting themselves forward for political office, they mentioned that you have to have a love for the people, and that is definitely an important aspect. How can you enter political office if you don't even have a love for the people? So
Yeah.
what is your offering yourself about? And so
Right.
I
So the thing is, with me, I always say that every day that I have the opportunity to wake up, that I have sight, that I have speech, that I have mobility, it's a day for me to be putting that to productive use, because I'm not here just for myself. I can't afford to be selfish, because if every individual was selfish, then what kind of society would we have? Granted that there are a lot of people who are selfish and just think about themselves, but I do think that because we have as many people who we have who put others before self, it keeps somewhat of an equilibrium in society. And I just want to be on the right side of history. I want to be seen as someone who uses his voice and his platform for others. Let's be honest, at the end of the day, if I never become Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, I will be fine, because that's not the end goal. That's not the objective. It's to use whatever office, whatever opportunity I have to serve those around me, to serve my community, to serve my people. So I don't need a position or a title to do that. I just need the tools and the right environment and the space to operate. And that's how I was able to start back in 2016 the Trinidad and Tobago Youth Convention, because I started asking myself, where are there spaces across Trinidad and Tobago for young people to be, to excel, to have conversations with government and private sector and civil society? And because that did not exist, I thought at one point, should I just approach the government and ask them to create it? The Ministry of Youth asked them to create it. And I said, no, I can create it for myself. And in a matter of 3.5 months, I was able to launch the Trinidad and Tobago Youth Convention. We received more than $220,000 in support, and we held our first event. It was a major success. And then we were able to do that on an annual basis, creating that space for young people. So if we think along those lines, that we don't need someone else to create something for which we know we have the power and potential to do, when we start to take on that kind of demeanor, it will augur well for society. So again, I am here to serve. I am here to support. I am here to advise. And I always say to young people, the advice is free. You want to talk, you want help, you want information, feel free to reach out, because that's my purpose. And I'm so glad that from a very young age, I was able to recognize my purpose and my potential. Many people go through life and they just never know their purpose and their potential. But because I had a strong support system around me, and I'm not talking financially, because I don't come from a wealthy background at all, but I was able to be nourished by the support of family and friends and teachers and individuals who saw something in me that I did not see in myself at that point. And because of their support, I was able to recognize that, Nikolai, you have a platform, you have an opportunity, you're strong-minded, you have thick skin, go out there and do something. So many people say they can't do what I do, but I think that they can. It's just that they have to believe in themselves. And when you start believing in yourself, the possibilities are endless.
absolutely, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Even if you find that you have no one else to believe in you, you have to believe in yourself. So I want to thank you for sharing that. You shared so many powerful points. Um, Even in the context, you talk about our political systems, but you also talk on our culture and the issues that we have within our culture that kind of snowball into bigger issues and that affect us in the political realm as well. And
Yeah.
so I want to thank you for sharing that. And a major issue, as we would have talked about, a major issue is um, us not wanting, us seeing people as threats, especially younger persons who present themselves forward. And that is a sad reality within our culture. Instead of us standing behind these persons and lifting these persons up, we're so quick to tear them down. But I want to thank you. I want to thank you for sharing that. And hopefully by us, us having these discussions and putting these things forward, we can try to change the narrative or change, these aspects of our culture. So I want to thank you for being with us today.
Sure, my absolute pleasure.
Thank you so
And
much. Do
I
you
just
have
want to
any additional
congratulate you.
comments?
For one, I just want to congratulate you on having such a powerful space, because this is what regionalism looks like. This is what young people who are on a path to progress looks like, taking charge of spaces and letting our voices be heard, because no one has to give us permission to have these conversations. No one has to give us access, because access is available. And when we recognize that we have these tools available to us and we invest the time, energy, and effort into creating spaces that will benefit our peers and our generations to come, I think that's a really powerful thing. So I want to give you kudos, and thank you for the opportunity to share here and to be here. The world is much smaller than we think. Our region is much smaller than we think, but our region is far less powerful than we think as well. And until we recognize the power and the potential of our people, because I am not just Trinidadian, I am Caribbean, I am West Indian, and that has a particular meaning. It's a meaning that we know when you go to another country, and you hear a Jamaican voice or accent, or you hear a Barbadian accent, or you hear a Bahamian accent, it should instill in you a certain pride, knowing that this is a fellow regional neighbor and someone who you can relate to. So power to you, power to your audience. And I look forward to us continuing this discussion in the future, and just being there for one another. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. That's my regional sister. That's my regional brother. I'm battling a little bit of cold today. It's not COVID, okay? It's not COVID. But I want to thank you. I want to thank you. You really were preaching to me today. I mean, you were preaching. I got so many powerful words from what you said. And I just want to say that, nobody created a space for me. They didn't create a space for me. I created it for myself. And I want to thank you for mentioning that, and to empower other young persons. You don't have to wait for anyone to do anything for you. You go there and you make it happen for yourself. And no matter how small you start, I just started in January. Okay, I just started this platform in January. It doesn't matter how small you start. It's not about the start, it's where you finish. And so I want to thank you. I want to thank you, and I welcome you anytime. I welcome you anytime. You're welcome anytime, Mr. Edwards. You're making big moves. And so I just want to thank you for sharing your platform with us today and talking about the Progressive Party. It's just something about that word progressive for me. That's always been a big word for me. Progression is moving forward and doing things differently than we did before. That's a powerful word in and of itself. So I want to thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you so much.
Any other comments? Or you?
Just for everyone to stay safe. I know we're going through a trying time right now. This is something that our generation, and all persons who are alive right now have not experienced in the way that we're experiencing it right now. And just stay safe. Understand that you have a personal responsibility to protect not just yourself, but your loved ones. When we are told stay home, it's not just about governments being repressive and oppressive, but we have to follow the rules and the guidelines, because this is the only way we're going to get out of this moment. Too many lives have been lost. Too many times we've seen tears and RIP on social media, and we have the opportunity to flatten the curve. We have the opportunity to come out of this thing unscathed in many respects, and just do your part, please do your part. We will get out of this, and I think that there will be many positives to celebrate at the end of this, but we have to work toward the end. It makes no sense thinking about a future that we may not be able to live, to see, because of our actions, because of us making rash decisions, because of us being selfish. So if we want to see a bright future, we have to think about the present and what we're doing now. So stay safe, mask up, get your vaccines, do all that you can to live to see another day, and we will overcome.
Thank you. Can you share your page?
Sure. So on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, it's Nikoli Edwards. On Facebook, well, Nikoli Jean-Paul Edwards, Nikoli, as you all should see. And feel free to reach out to me, shoot me a message, like, subscribe, follow. And my progress or my success as an individual, I think, is our success as young people, as millennials, as a region. So I'm not doing it for me, I'm doing it for all of us. And I would love for you to join me on my journey. And if you go to my Facebook page, it's pinned there. There's a documentary that actually speaks to the things that I've gone through and experienced up to this point. It's a short documentary, about 20-something minutes, but it really gives you insight into who I am as an individual and the support that I speak of. So I'd encourage you to take a look at it. It can be some night viewing for you. If you want to look at a movie, look at this instead for tonight.
Thank you. And I want to apologize for butchering your name. I think I said Nikoli Jean-Paul.
Jean-Paul, yeah. When people see it, they see Jean as Jean. It's fine. It's French, okay. Jean-Paul.
I'm sorry.
It's no problem.
But thank you, Mr. Edwards, for sharing with us today. Like his page, he would have shared his social media pages, like our page, Can We Talk? Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. And we want to thank you and comment under this video. Let us know what else you want us to talk about, and we will talk about those things. So thank you and have a great day. Bye.